Let's kick this off. Welcome to The Explainer. You know that million-dollar business idea that's been bouncing around in your head? Well, today, we are putting it through an absolute gauntlet. Because here's the reality. Every massive venture starts with a spark, but only a tiny fraction of ideas actually survive out there in the wild. So how do you know if yours is the golden ticket? Let's find out. It all comes down to this one massive question. Will your idea actually work? And trust me, you absolutely want the answer to this before you drain your savings account or dedicate months of your life to it. What we're doing today is basically building a safety net. We're going to unpack the tools you need to avoid flying completely blind into a risky business venture. To do that, we use something called project feasibility analysis. Think of it as your ultimate risk mitigation tool. It's what we call an ex-ante evaluation, which is really just a fancy way of saying we test everything before the business even exists. It takes the blind guesswork completely out of the equation. Essentially, it's a rigorous cost-benefit analysis asking, do we actually have the tech, the people, the market, and the cash to pull this off? Any solid feasibility study rests on four main pillars: technical, market, financial, and environmental. It's kind of like a table, right? If your idea kicks out just one of these legs, the whole thing comes crashing down. So, here is our roadmap for the stress test: technical analysis, market analysis, financial projections, and finally, the environmental survival guide. Let's jump right in. Step 1. Technical analysis. Can you actually build it? This is your reality check on logistics. Do you possess the actual physical capability to make this product or deliver this service? You've got to ask yourself some tough Socratic questions here. Is the technology you're relying on truly state-of-the-art, or is it going to be obsolete the second you launch? What about your hardware and software? Do your people actually have the skills to pull this off? And don't forget the physical stuff. Where is your plant going to be located? How is it laid out? And can you even get your hands on the raw materials? If you can't build it efficiently, well, the dream stops right here. Step 2. Market analysis. Will they actually buy it? Look, you could invent the most technically flawless product in human history, but if there's no market for it, you don't have a business, period. This step is all about getting out of your own head and doing the research. How big is the industry, and is it actually growing? You need to dig into customer segmentation. Who exactly is your target audience? What are the demand trends? And oh, you cannot forget your competitors. What is their market share? What are their strategies? How fast can they copy you? And how are they going to react when you launch? You need a solid pricing method and a real game plan for all of this. Moving on to Section 3, financial projections. Will it make money? Let's talk capital and ROI. Now, here is a super interesting and honestly kind of terrifying fact. There is a massive difference between profit and cash flow. Profit is just sales minus expenses. Simple enough, but cash flow, that's the actual cash hitting your bank account versus the cash leaving it. Research shows that so many new ventures fail because they run out of cash, even when they are technically profitable on paper. Why? Because things like loan principal repayments drain your cash but don't count as operating expenses. If you don't track your actual cash flow, you simply will not survive. Which leads us straight into the working capital cycle. Think of working capital as the oxygen for your day-to-day operations. The cycle starts when you buy raw materials, moves into work in progress, then finished goods, over to your debtors, and finally, hopefully, sales realization. Here is the catch. The longer it takes to convert those materials into actual cash, the more working capital you need to survive that waiting period. You have to fund the gap. And that brings us to my absolute favorite number, 0. We're talking about the break-even point. This is the absolute survival baseline for your venture. It is the exact moment when the cost of doing business is fully covered by your sales. 0 profit, but crucially, 0 loss. You calculate this by weighing your selling price against your fixed and variable costs. You need to know the exact number of units you have to sell every single month, literally just to keep the lights on. Once you cross that magical 0 line, that is when you finally start building real wealth. Section 4. The Environmental Survival Guide. What could destroy it? To survive out there in the wild, you have to look at forces completely outside of your control. The classic tool here is the SWOT analysis. It's brilliant because it neatly maps your internal capabilities, your strengths and weaknesses, right up against the external market realities, your opportunities and threats. It shows you exactly where you can dominate and what hidden dangers might completely derail your launch. Speaking of those massive external threats, we have to decode the PESTLE acronym. We're talking political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental factors. These are the giant macro currents of the world. A sudden new law, a shift in how people behave, or a crazy new tech disruption can generate catastrophic risks for your business. But hey, if you are actively scanning for them, they can also provide incredible, hidden opportunities that your competitors might completely miss. Another really powerful tool in your arsenal is ETOP analysis, or Environment Threat and Opportunity Profile. This basically takes that huge, overwhelming external environment and slices it into specific, manageable sectors. By doing this, strategists get a remarkably clear picture of exactly how individual factors will systematically impact the business, either favorably or unfavorably. It cuts right through the noise. And alongside SWOT, PESTLE, and ETOP, our source material highlights a couple more frameworks: QUEST, which is the Quick Environmental Scanning Technique, and CPM, the Competitive Profile Matrix. CPM is especially cool because it lets you directly compare your strengths and weaknesses against your biggest rivals. Using these techniques ensures you're constantly scanning the horizon and can safely adapt to whatever shocks the market decides to throw your way. So, we've reached the end of the gauntlet. Is your idea truly ready for the real world? We've stress-tested the technical reality of building it, the market feasibility of selling it, the financial oxygen needed to keep it alive, and the environmental shields required to protect it. My challenge to you? Rigorously apply these 4 pillars to your own ideas before you invest your time and your money. Do the ex-ante work, run the gauntlet. Trust me, your future business will thank you. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.